This is Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and today we'll be going over UFC Fight Night Hall versus Strickland, giving you our thoughts, predictions on the entire fight card. But I'd like to say, nice to have you back, Jose.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Felt like I was out a lot longer. We just got done watching the BKFC with Paige Van Zant and Rachel Ostovich, and that felt like an eternity. And after that fight, if whoever bothered watching it, Paige has been demoted from 12 gauge to does not engage. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Paige Van Zant. If you were listening to this, please go to a boxing gym, learn some footwork, or at the very least, go train with Derek Lewis, man. He'll show you how to get it done.
Oh, yeah. He's knocked out a couple people on the street.
Oh, yeah.
Just recently, too. He's carjacking gone awry. How sucky would that be? You're jacking some dude's car, and then it's Black Beast Derek Lewis's car, and he knocks you out for fun, mind you. He didn't need to knock him out. He just knocked him out for fun. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that must suck. But we'll begin with our fight card with a fight at flyweight. Ryan Benoit versus Zaruk Adashev. This one is rescheduled. I don't remember why it was canceled. I'm going to say Benoit had COVID, but now we've got it on this card. And currently the odds are minus 140 for Benoit, come back on Adashev plus 120. My opinion on this one hasn't changed. Initially, I forgot what card this was on, but I had Adashev. I'm not changing my pick with that. Adashev is the better striker. He has had a couple losses in a row where he got knocked out by Tyson Nam, but that's nor here nor there. It's Tyson Nam, making your UFC debut. He fought Sumadarji to a decision. He got outclassed by the longer, rangier striker. Ryan Benoit, I hear a lot about this guy. He's like, oh, he is the better fighter between these two. And I'm not even sure about that. Potentially, yes, the better MMA fighter, but not necessarily the better fighter. He's lost two in a row, and he's lost two in a row to guys that I'll give him a pass with Tim Elliott. I think Tim Elliott is on a slight resurgence, never going to reach the title, but he will be beating some guys in the weight division. But Haile Alatang, a split decision loss to that, he should have won that one. And you know what? They're evenly matched. They're both 5'5". Younger guy is Zaruk Adashev, better striker. Benoit, his cardio fails him quite often. The edge in experience will go to Benoit. Just something tells me that Adashev will be the more aggressive guy. I don't think he'll knock out Benoit. I don't think Benoit really has the best takedowns to get Zaruk on the ground and keep him there. So I'll pick Zaruk Adashev to win just by using his superior striking, footwork, and aggression to edge out each round. Like I think it's going to be close. I think they'll be not necessarily engaging too often, but you'll notice that Adashev is just landing that additional shot, the more impactful shot. Even if it doesn't necessarily land clean, I think the judges will score it for Adashev. So I've got Adashev to win by a decision.
Yeah, this one's tough. To me, it's a coin flip fight. Um, my gut says go with Adashev, as you've mentioned. Uh, but I still can't, I still have another kind of more faint voice in the background saying, go with Benoit because he's gonna, for some reason I keep picturing Chris Benoit and they're, crippling Adashev, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Ryan's not that kind of Benoit. Uh, yeah, I mean it's hard to go against Benoit just because he does have the experience factor. Um, but it's not. He's bought. I should say he's fought better competition. Uh, but it's not like he's beat better competition. Really, the only name that stands out to me is Sergio Pettis, who is now the champ in Bellator. But that was like so many years ago. That was 6+ years, half a decade ago. So that doesn't really count. And he's been fighting, or I should say, he hasn't fought in wow a year. Okay. Uh, yeah, this one's tough. This is a coin flip fight to me. Uh, I don't know, man. This is I can't really see one guy dominating the other. Um, I am gonna reluctantly pick Benoit, but I would say stay away from this fight. If anything, I'd say, given the choice, I'd say go with the over. I believe this fight will go the distance. But I'm gonna go with experience over, I'd say, the hungrier, younger lion, which kind of fits Adashev in this particular instance.
And then moving on to a welterweight bout, we've got Orion Galaxy Cosce versus Philip the Fresh Prince Rowe. And yeah, the Fresh Prince, I think I made the joke last time that he embodies Uncle Phil off on his off season because he gets pretty pudgy in the off season. But yeah, I guess he looks a little bit like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, Will Smith. This one's interesting because the odds primarily minus 200 for Orion, comeback on Phil Rowe, plus 165. And I don't understand those odds at all. In what world is Orion Kulske minus 200? Is it because of his last performance? Is it because of the last name? We saw how his brother did against Platnikov, where he got, I don't want to say destroyed, but eventually he took it up the butt. This one, after watching some tape on these guys, Orion was supposed to make his debut a couple months ago. I can't really recall who he was supposed to fight, but Phil Rowe, his last fight was against Gabe Green. And despite him losing that one by a decision, he looked pretty damn good. A couple of things that I noticed is that he is a long, tall guy. He's 6'3", 80.5-inch reach, trains at a Fusion XL with Rodolfo Vieira. And it showed in that fight because his ground game was pretty slick, man. I was impressed. Even though he got taken down, he attacked with arm bars, submissions, and his own takedowns were okay. He's primarily a striker, though. My concern about him is that he can get pushed to the back or his back against the cage, and that's a way he can lose the fight. I know Cosce hits hard, like his brother. These two guys are, what are they? They're from an Indian reservation. They both fought on the Contender Series at the same time. Both of them were huge favorites. Or maybe I can't remember if Cosce Orion was a huge favorite. He fought Matt Dixon, and Matt Dixon was kind of beating his ass in the first few rounds, and then he eventually turned it around and got a crucifix ground and pound. But he looked very stiff, and that was what 11 months ago. So he does train at Team Alpha Male. His takedown defense is a little suspect. I'm leaning towards the underdog on this one. I'm potentially going to take Phil Rowe. The keys to victory, though, I think if Phil Rowe attacks the takedowns, because we're not sure which Phil Rowe we're going to get. If Phil Rowe is the striker, he is the longer guy. I think he can piece up Orion Cosce. But if he continues to push himself back against the cage, I see Orion landing some good enough shots that can potentially hurt Phil, and he can get finished on the ground. If Phil Rowe attacks takedowns, I think that's a really good shot for him to win by using his superior grappling, because he trains with Rodolfo Vieira, and we saw what he did recently. I forgot to mention this, but for Rodolfo Vieira, that amazing rear naked choke that he pulled off, it's beautiful. Watching that, I was like, that was absolutely fantastic. But this guy trains with him on a daily basis, so his ground game is good. It really will come down to cardio. I think Phil Rowe would have the better cardio. He has the better striking between the two, because Orion Cosce looked very stiff in his fight in the Contender Series. So we'll see. It's a winnable fight for Phil Rowe. In my opinion, it's his fight to lose. So I'll go with Phil Rowe to win this one by a second round submission. I think Orion Cosce will get a win in the UFC, just not this one. I think it's just too much to ask. A tall, lanky guy with good submissions and good takedowns. It's going to be a tough one for Orion.
Yeah, I think the Cosce, a little bit of hype that they earned back in the Contender Series. Yeah, these odds do not make sense to me whatsoever. So to me, that alone adds value to Phil Rowe. So if you're looking to bet on this one, if you do also agree and find value in Phil Rowe because of the odds alone, just based on the odds, I'd say a bit on him sooner rather than later, because I believe money will come in on Phil Rowe and the odds will adjust accordingly. He might, by the time fight day comes around, he might be the favorite. So if you're looking to bet, if you can bet, I'd bet on Phil Rowe sooner rather than later. So my bet is also Phil Rowe.
And next bout at featherweight, we've got a fight between Colin Anglin and Melsik Baghdasryan. That one's hard for me. The Gun is his nickname. Currently, the odds have it minus 145 for Melsik. Comeback on Anglin is plus 125. Both of these guys from the Contender Series. One of these two had a very impressive showing, and that was Melsik. Just to get it out of the way, he trains out of Glendale Fight Club. Oh man, geez. That's a bad sign. Especially like when you have an Armenian fighter training out of that club, it's like, oh. But I'll give him this, man. His striking was incredible with his fight with Denis Bazooka. I actually bet on that fight, and I thought Bazooka was going to take him down and then just beat his ass, but that wasn't the case, man. He was incredibly aggressive. Baghdasryan was. He really impressed me when he threw everything at him: elbows, knees. Very nice and fast left hand, and his get-up game wasn't too bad either. When he got taken down, he would get back up. It wasn't like, oh my god, impressive out of Bazooka, but because I don't know what level of wrestler he is, but at least I saw something out of Melsik showing that he's not just reluctant to like accept position. He's willing to get back up, and when he is up on the feet, he is a whirlwind of offense. And concerning because I haven't seen his defense yet, but yeah, the guy's a kickboxer. As for Colin, he's a wrestler, and his fight with Muhammadjan Naimov was interesting because he didn't look too good on the feet. It was super suspect. He clearly lost that first round against Naimov, and Naimov was looking good. His striking looked very similar to Melsik. So I was like, oh, interesting. Like that's a good sign for picking Melsik if he is the underdog. Unfortunately, he's not. But once Colin got it to the ground, he really showed a lot because his striking is clearly not where it's at for him. It's his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu. Last I checked, his ranking was, I think, a blue belt. He might be a purple belt now, but his transitions from like the back to mount were really, really clean. And that's where he has to have this fight take place. It's very, very interesting. This is a very close one. I'm leaning Anglin because if he does take Melsik down to the ground, which he can give up takedowns, he should win this one in the later rounds, probably like late round number 2, round number 3. Round number 2 might be really close, but once he gets a takedown, he'll control him on the ground. But if Melsik has been training his takedowns and his get-up game, and his striking is fine the way it is, man. He's super aggressive. We'll see. But I can see this one going either way. I'm really afraid of picking Colin and him getting knocked out in the first round because his striking is super suspect, man. He did not offer much on the feet. So it's a tough one, grappler versus striker, and this striker is really good. I'm leaning Anglin, but my brain is telling me, hey, pick Melsik. I'm just really afraid that by picking Melsik, just because I've seen what I like from him on the feet, and then he gets grapple fucked by Anglin, because that's a common thread for these guys fighting out of Glendale Fighting Club. So I think I'm a little biased against Glendale Fighting Club for that reason. So I'll go with Anglin just due to bias and, plus money. So I'll go with Anglin to win by a decision.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. This is as you mentioned, this is a grappler versus striker. And this is this guy's fighting out of a gym that's known. Ronda. I would say Ronda Rousey is the exception, to Glendale Fight Club, because she was an Olympic grappler, and she happened to train. Basically, they just took her money. They didn't really train her all that well.
I can't argue with that, man.
Yeah, and so Glendale Fight Club is not a place where you're going to go and get a full. You're not going to get a full MMA experience there. You're going to get half-assed experience, and they're going to take your money. And so this guy Melsik, I'm not going to count on his ground game being there. He might be able to stuff a few, but if Anglin has any sense, he's going to just keep going until he breaks Melsick on the ground. So I'm going to take Colin. Yeah, sucks for Melsick, man. He better look for an actual MMA gym where they're going to, train him on at least ground defense. Yeah, Colin by, I would say decision. If not, maybe possibly a third round submission.
Those Armenians stick together, man. It would do him well to go to a different gym.
Yeah, I mean, he's, I don't know if he has any sort of loyalty to that guy, Edmund, but yeah, I'd stay away from that place, no, at least for MMA purposes. For boxing or whatever, I guess, if he wants to train there, he feels comfortable there with his kinsman. But for MMA, yeah, I'd go to an actual MMA gym.
Bonus for the fans out there, based off of the audio you just heard, where does Jose live? Comment below. Next up at featherweight, we've got a hell of a fight between Danny, the Colombian warrior, Chavez versus Kai Kamaka, the fighting Hawaiian. Hell of a fight between these two guys. Very interested in this one. The odds currently have it at, let me pull that up where they go. Minus 150 for Kamaka. Danny Chavez comes back plus 125. Interesting bout. We've got a 34-year-old versus a 26-year-old. These guys are roughly about the same in height. 5'7" for Kamaka, 5'8" for Danny Chavez. 2-inch reach advantage for Kamaka, 69 inches for him, 67 for Danny Chavez. After watching tape on these two, it comes down to the counter striker, Danny Chavez, versus the more aggressive fighter in Kai Kamaka. Last I checked, Kamaka was training out of Extreme Couture, and I saw Instagram pictures of him training with the imitation champion, the great value bantamweight champion in Aljamain Sterling. So that's a good sign. Despite me talking shit about Aljamain, he is a great grappler, great fighter. And for Kamaka, his last fight was a split decision loss to TJ Brown, a fighter that Danny Chavez has a win over. And primarily he had the wherewithal to attack the legs of TJ Brown, which is one of his main weapons for Danny Chavez. He's a counter striker, and he trains out of MMA Masters, and he trains with God Almighty Colby Covington. So, his takedown defense should be improving, but his last fight with Gordon or Jared Gordon, it did not really hold up for him. I wanted to say he accepted the bottom position, but to be honest with you, man, he did try to get back up. So I respect that from him. I don't think this is going to be a fight where either of these two guys is going to shoot for a takedown. If anybody shoots for a takedown, I think it might be Kai Kamaka. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter between the two of these guys. He's a younger guy, but what's concerning is that TJ Brown caught Kai Kamaka and he noticeably rocked him, which was like, holy shit, if you're getting rocked by TJ Brown, Danny Chavez will put your lights out. But the good thing about that is that I saw that he had pretty decent recovery, because he gets rocked and maybe 10, 12 seconds later, he's back on the offense and he actually drops TJ Brown. It's a very close fight, especially at the odds. So it's an interesting one. I'm not sure on this one. This is a coin flip. I think it's very possible that either of these two guys can get knocked out. I am leaning that if it is a knockout, it's going to be at the hands of Danny Chavez. He might just land a nasty, nasty counter and catch Kai Kamaka. But because I believe Kai Kamaka is the better fighter, I see him winning a decision. As long as he maintains his distance, uses his reach, and he doesn't overcommit to anything that would leave an opening for him to get caught with a counter, maybe a left hook from Danny Chavez, I think he can win this one. He has to implement the grappling. He has to make Danny Chavez work. And I see him winning this one by a decision. But man, I'm not 100% on this one. It's a coin flip. I'd like to know what you guys think on this one, because again, it's counter striking versus forward pressure, and God knows what can happen. But yeah, Kai Kamaka's chin is a little bit of a liability in my opinion. But I think again, if he implements that game plan, uses that strong Hawaiian body of his, dude is fucking shredded. I think he can really make Danny Chavez work and tire him out, and then possibly either pound him out in the later rounds. But I'm going with decision, Kai Kamaka decision.
Yeah, this is definitely a coin flip fight. Very close. I do believe it will go over, but I have to give it to Kai as well. I think he's the more complete fighter at this point. He is on a two-fight win streak, two-fight skid. But I mean, he does have youth on his side. And I want to say Danny Chavez, well, I mean, he's been average at best. And I mean, he is 34 years old. He hasn't really shown any signs of, ever having, ever being in his prime, so to speak. He shows flashes here and there, but he's never really shown like, oh wow, Danny Chavez, he's going to be in the top 20 or top 30, and in that division. Meanwhile, Kai Kamaka, I think he does have some potential. I think what it says, according to Tapology, Kai is ranked number 93. I'm pretty sure he can get into the 70s and 60s eventually. Yeah, but at this point, I think Kai is just more well-rounded. I think he's got youth on his side. And he doesn't have any height or reach disadvantage. So I think Kai is going to get the decision on this one. I don't think either guy has like that big of a advantage over the other. I think Danny might have maybe a little bit of a power advantage, but I think Kai is actually going to be a little bit faster here, and faster, also due to his youth. So I'll go with Kai to get the decision here as well.
The next bout at bantamweight, we've got a short notice fight between Trevin Jones and Ronnie Johnny Lawrence. Oh man, this was announced just recently. Trevin Jones was supposed to fight Aaron Phillips. What?
Ronnie Johnny Lawrence. That's good.
That's what I always think. I'm like, he's a karate kid. Literally, he has like karate titles. But Trevin Jones was supposed to fight Aaron Phillips, and I guess that never was materialized. And now they took Ronnie Lawrence from some other fighter, and now they paired him up together. So interesting bout. Initially, when this was announced and I read about it, I'm like, oh, this is a way better fight than Trevin Jones versus Aaron Phillips, because I think Ronnie Lawrence is going to put up a fight. And currently the odds have it at minus 200 for Ronnie Lawrence, plus 165 for Trevin Jones. And man, it's surprising that Jones is the underdog, because every single time he's the underdog in these last two fights, the one with Timur Valiev and the one with Mario Batista, he's ended up knocking these dudes the fuck out. And there is a huge possibility in this happening. Minus 200 for Ronnie Lawrence, I understand, but I don't agree with it. It should be a lot closer than that, because Trevin Jones can put anyone's lights out at bantamweight. In the last podcast, I discussed how I undervalued Trevin Jones. I really didn't think much of him because he was getting destroyed by Timur Valiev. And it's true, man. Like, this guy, you can't sleep on this guy. I think every single one of his opponents in the UFC, Timur and Mario Batista, really slept on him. I think Mario more so, he saw what happened to him against Timur. He's like, oh, Timur did that to him. He probably thinks I'm better than Timur. I'm going to run through this guy. He did not respect him, and then he got uppercutted and then pounded out. As for the bout with Ronnie Lawrence, I think Ronnie now is aware, hey, I should not be messing with this guy on the feet. The only concern I have with him is that if he tries to test his stand-up, and if he tries to implement a game plan like Timur did, he can get countered. His last fight was a win over Vince Cachero. He beat his ass in the third round, but that entire fight wasn't as one-sided, man. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, he destroyed Vince. He beat his ass in the third round after like slowly breaking him down, but it was close, man. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He has pretty good wrestling. His cardio is really solid. As I mentioned, he is a karate. I think he initially was listed as like a kung fu fighter, but he has multiple titles in karate. So his striking is pretty solid, but he leaves himself open. Like I saw him against Vince, where if Vince would have landed a really strong punch, and if this was Trevin Jones landing a punch on a spinning Ronnie Lawrence, he'd be out cold. And this could be a punch that lands clean or one in the back of the head. And I say the back of the head because Ronnie Lawrence loves throwing spinning back kicks to the body. And if Trevin Jones times something and even clocks him in the back of the head, that's fair game, man. And I don't want to see that happen to Ronnie Lawrence as he's spinning. But it's really a lot closer, man. It's a tough one for me to pick. I hate to say it, man, because I've been fading Trevin Jones quite often, but I think I'm going to go with Ronnie Lawrence. I think he can implement a point fight style and avoid the power of Trevin Jones. It really comes down to if it hits the ground, because Trevin Jones is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. We haven't seen that jiu-jitsu at all because he's been knocking his dudes out. And we've seen him kind of take the ass whooping too. So that's a plus. I don't think Ronnie's going to be able to put on that ass whooping that he got from Timur. I see this one going the distance as long as Ronnie does not get caught. So I have Ronnie to win this one by a decision. We'll see how good Trevin Jones's black belt really is, because a really, really high level brown belt can really destroy a so-called black belt. And I've yet to really see his ground game. So I'll go with Ronnie Lawrence to win this one by a point style decision.
I'm actually going to take a shot in the dark here, no pun intended, with Trevin Jones. Actually, you might want to delete that shot in the dark.
I might not.
Yeah.
That was good.
I'm actually going with Trevin Jones. I think he's got that so-called death touch, what's his name? Who's that coach? That kind of Arab coach.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Fabia. Arab coach.
Arab coach. He used to coach GSP.
Oh, for Zahabi.
Yeah, Zahabi. Zahabi, at one point said that Conor McGregor had the death touch, but this was, 2016 and before Conor McGregor. When he was training with the GOAT, Artem Lobov. When he was training with the Hammer, he was pretty damn sharp, and this was, I think, after he beat Aldo. Zahabi mentioned that, McGregor has that death touch, because he has, he aims right for the chin and he just knocks guys out with seemingly not heavy hands. And so I think Jones has a little bit of that. I don't think he has the same style, but I think he does have pretty heavy hands. So I'll take a shot in the dark here with Trevin Jones. I'll say by TKO in the second round.
Our next bout at lightweight, we've got a bout between Chris Gruetzmacher and Rafa Garcia. I absolutely hate Rafa's nickname, Gifted Rafa Garcia. I'm not a fan of that. I think Gabe Green also has that, and it's like, ugh, it's not very good. It sounds like you're, that's what you call kids in the back of the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, those are the gifted kids. I'm like, why would you call yourself that? But interesting bout. Currently, the odds are minus 225 for Garcia to come back on Gruetzmacher. It's plus 185. And all I really have to say about this one, because I wrote some notes down on this one, is that they're both tough, but one of them is tough because they are tough. The other one is tough because they get their ass beat a lot. I'm very surprised that Chris Gruetzmacher was able to beat Joe Lozon. And I don't remember seeing this fight, so I had to go watch it with my own eyes, because it says here on Tapology, he TKO knocked out Joe Lozon by retirement. And all I saw in that fight was Chris Gruetzmacher essentially got his ass beat by Joe Lozon to the point that Lozon got exhausted because he could not put out Chris. So Chris eventually just kind of elbowed him up in the clinch and beat his face up bad enough that they had to call it off because his eyes got swollen. And then his next fight against Alexander Hernandez, a bit more typical of a Chris Gruetzmacher fight. He gets knocked out in the first round. For Rafa Garcia, his fight into the UFC, his debut was against Nasrat Hakparast, which I bet everything I had on Nasrat. I'm like, yeah, he's got this easily. Like there are some moments in that fight where I'm just like, oh shoot, like what did I do? I questioned myself. I'm like, oh my god, like God, please let him win. Please don't let him get a decision. Like it wasn't, oh my god, that close, but there were some moments in there where Rafa was like landing an overhand right and kind of uh, wobbled Nasrat, and I'm like, oh dear God, I'm clenching myself real tight. He did not give a damn in that fight. He went forward. He was super tough. He cracked Nasrat over and over with a right hand. He did get beat thoroughly. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he made it close. Like no, he got his ass beat to the point that it was a 30-27 decision for Nasrat, but he did not look like a guy making his UFC debut. He went in there, he moved forward, consistently put pressure on Nasrat. It's just that it was Nasrat's fight. He was just a better fighter. Garcia did show glimpses of what he can do though, so I'm very very impressed by what he's been able to do. He's a young guy. He's 26 years old. As I read, his takedowns aren't really that great, but once he gets you to the ground, his jiu-jitsu is where it's at. But I actually see this one being a knockout for Garcia. I think Garcia should have learned from his fight with Nasrat. Like Nasrat was just piecing him up on the feet, landing straight. I see Garcia actually knocking out Chris Gruetzmacher. If anything, if say he doesn't get him out in the first round, which I'm predicting first round knockout for Garcia, he should just be able to get him on the ground, pound him out, or possibly get a submission. But I just see Garcia running through Chris Gruetzmacher. I'm interested in to hear what you guys think on what round. But yeah, I think Garcia, although not like the real deal, I don't think he'll be top 10 anytime soon. I think he's a pretty solid young guy. So I've got him first round knockout.
I've actually got Garcia by TKO in the second round if it makes it that far. I don't think Gruetzmacher is UFC caliber. I think he's probably after this fight, he might be on his way out. I don't know if they'll give him another chance. He doesn't really have the greatest track record in the UFC. And I'm really basing this fight just on one, I took a look at his record. And I'm basing my prediction just based on one of his fights. And he's lost to the GOAT. He lost to Artem Lobov on The Ultimate Fighter. And that alone, that's a black mark on his record that he's never going to be able to get rid of. That, and also I think Rafa. I don't know why I keep calling this guy Rafa Garcia when he's not Brazilian.
You've been conditioned by the Brazilians to pronounce
damn
him.
It, man.
I know they got you.
Yeah, man. Damn it. I keep calling these guys Rafa.
Did I call him Rafa?
I don't know.
Oh, fuck if I did. Oh, no. Rafa Garcia. I hope I didn't call him out. You got me worried now.
I got Hani Yahya. But anyway, yeah, I think he's got that black mark against the GOAT, and yeah, that's not looking good for him. I think he's on his way out of the UFC. He's probably going to end up in bare knuckle or something pretty soon. But Rafa, I think this is going to be his first win in the UFC. I'd say I'll take him TKO in the second round.
Our next bout at strawweight, we've got a sexy fight between Ashley, the Spider Monkey Yoder, and the love of my life, Jinyu Frey. Currently, the odds are minus 135 for Yoder, the comeback on Frey, plus 110. And like I don't know why they did this on Tapology, but they made Ashley Yoder's picture. She looks like beautiful, like she's just staring at you with a nice smile. And they got Jinyu Frey looking like a mean bitch. I'm like, come on now, she's beautiful. Leave her be. I've got I don't know, man. Like I've always had a thing for Ashley Yoder and Jinyu Frey at the same time. I'm just like, this is gonna be great. And I just thought about it. What are the odds that this goes to the ground and they're in the north-south position for like a total of over 2.5 minutes? That'd be like hooting and hollering, man. That'd be awesome. But
yeah, I think that's that. What comes to mind is that meme of Dana White, with the washing machine where it says load size max, and then he's like
Uh,
with his eyes all the way in the back of his skull, and I'm guessing he's moaning or something.
that would be me. But in a
Yeah.
serious note, these two ladies are like they're up in age, 33 years old for Ashley Yoder. And for Jinyu Frey, she's 36. We saw what she did recently. She's on one fight win streak against Gloria de Paula, where she did what she had to do. She grapple fucked de Paula, and everyone was high on her. I think you were the only person that I know of that actually picked Jinyu Frey. I picked de Paula because I'm an idiot and I can't turn my back on Jinyu Frey like that, especially when I think she has a chance to win. Like that was my bad. But for Ashley Yoder, the thing about Ashley is that she's a spider monkey for a reason, man. If it goes to the ground, she's a long girl, man. She's six or not 6'7". That'd be crazy. She's 5'7" compared to the 5'3" for Jinyu Frey. She's going to have a 4.5 inch reach advantage. And this one is really hard for me to pick against Ashley Yoder. I don't care if she's 7 or 8-7, and she just recently lost to Angela Hill. She has shown improvement even in her loss to Livina Souza. She looked a bit more aggressive on the feet. She's really feeling more comfortable on the feet overall. For Jinyu Frey, she's a kickboxer, but she demonstrated that she has a pretty solid ground game as well. So if this stays on the feet, Jinyu Frey, the path to victory for her would be to maintain it on the feet and then land takedowns and then maybe get on side control, avoid the legs of Ashley Yoder. If it does hit the ground, get it away from the cage and then possibly just beat her up a little bit. She will get back up. Ashley Yoder, again, she's no scrub off of her back. She can get submissions. She submitted Miranda, or she didn't submit Miranda Granger. She almost submitted Miranda Granger, if I remember correctly. Who am I thinking of? Doesn't matter. But for Ashley Yoder, she really has to implement her reach. And if she does attack takedowns, I think she's better overall than Jinyu Frey. She's going to potentially just keep her in the body lock, body triangle, and maybe even submit her. And I hate to say that, but logically, man, it is Ashley Yoder's fight to lose. I believe Jinyu Frey can win this one with a smart game plan, but it's hard to really deny Ashley Yoder's overall advantages in this fight. So I've got Ashley Yoder to win this one by a decision, but my heart still lies with Jinyu Frey. So if she wins this one, I'm still a winner. God damn it.
Yeah, I'll keep this one short as well. This is women's MMA, so just remember, stay away from it. You've been warned. But if you do have to bet on someone, I think Yoder's the way to go. This is MMA. This is bare knuckle. If this was bare knuckle, I'd say go with Jinyu Frey. She's gonna Rachel Ostovich her way to a decision win. But this is MMA, so she's probably gonna get grapple fucked for 3 rounds. She might get 1 round, maybe the first round, but after that, I think Ashley Yoder is going to take over, get that decision. But this is women's MMA, so I'd stay away from it.
So you've got Ashley Yoder by
decision.
Our next bout at welterweight, very interesting bout between two strikers. We've got Munir, the sniper Lazzez, and Nicholas Green Mask Stolze. And I didn't understand why he was named Green Mask. And all I had to do was a simple Google search of Nicholas Stolze, and there he is wearing a goddamn green mask. I was like, oh, I'm assuming he wears a green mask. Huh. But interesting bout between two strikers. The odds currently have it -200 for Lazzez, +170 for Stolze. I don't understand those odds at all. I'm like, what the hell? Am I crazy that I think that Nicholas Stolze is getting undervalued in this fight and then Lazzez is getting overvalued because he beat Razak Al Hassan? He beat the ghost of Abdul Razak Al Hassan, for fuck's sake. I'm like, I don't understand. He gets destroyed by Warley Alves. And I hate saying this because I try to be as respectful as possible, despite being a channel where I actually post pictures of the guys on the ground after they get knocked out. But to me, it looks like, it feels like, it tastes like, it smells like he took a dive with Warley Alves, or at least he quit in that fight. I don't understand what the hell that was, because I thought, hey man, Munir Lazzez, I bought into that type of bullshit hype. I'm like, yeah, he beat Razak Al Hassan. His chin looks pretty solid. he took some power shots from Razak Al Hassan. Despite him being done, even back then, he still took those punches. And I'm thinking to myself, at the very least, man, he seems solid enough to, eat punches and then eventually win a decision at the very least against Warley. But no, Warley kicks him in the kicks him in the body once, kicks him in the elbow, and then barely touches him at all the third kick because he threw 3 consecutive kicks to the body. Then he folds over and then he gave up. I hate to say it, but he gave up. And I understand the first kick might have really hurt him. The second kick might have pushed his elbow into his liver, which hurt him again. And all it would have taken was a light little touch to bring him down. But man, he did not show much heart, especially because he was fighting in Abu Dhabi and in front of his crowd. It just looked like, dude, come on now. For Nicholas, though, on the other hand, I like what I saw from this guy. I don't get why he's a plus 170. I'm going with Nicholas Stolze, and I'll explain to you why. Because he fought Razaman Ameev, and he made it incredibly close. He nearly, I don't want to say nearly finished him in the first round, but he landed an excellent knee that really hurt Razaman. Had there been more time, potentially he could have gotten a finish. But frankly, though, Razaman looked like he was getting his feet back under him. I liked what I saw from this guy. He was very aggressive. When Razaman tried to take him down with a simple body lock takedown, he grabbed the neck and he really cranked on it. In the first round, he didn't have it. The final minutes of the last round, the third round, he actually had him in a pretty deep guillotine. So this guy's pretty damn well rounded. I like his striking. They're both strikers. They're virtually identical, 6'1" for both. Nicholas Stolze has a 1-inch reach disadvantage. I think it's going to come down to the aggression. And although Munir Lazzez is the sniper, he picks his shots. He has a really nice knee to the body as he attempted multiple times to Al Hassan. I just think that Nicholas Stolze is just going to be the more aggressive guy. And we saw the button on Munir Lazzez, which is that body shot, that liver shot. So you damn know well, you know damn well that Nicholas Stolze is going to be attacking that body with either teeps because he is, I think he's an orthodox fighter and he's fighting, I think Munir's a lefty. I can't remember, but he will be attacking that body. I see Nicholas Stolze getting this one. His ground game is actually pretty solid as well. When he gets on top of you, he's going to be pounding you out. I'll go with Stolze to win this one by second round TKO. I think he'll get on top of him. I think, again, he's going to be the more aggressive guy at plus 170, man. I think that's a steal. So let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy? Because I hate seeing these where everyone's like, oh, Lazzez is going to win. And I'm like, why does that not make sense to me? So comment below.
I'm actually going with Munir on this one.
What?
I know he had a weird outing against Worley, but I think his outing just had to do with his confusion on the name Worley. Like, who the hell names their kid Worley? It's a weird name, and I'm still kind of scratching my head. And I think that affected him most of all. Anyway, I think he just had one bad outing. I think he's actually the better striker. Stolze is, he's not bad, but I think the odds here are. I don't think he should be a minus 200. I think the odds should be a little bit closer, like minus 150, minus 140, and Stolze should be like plus 120, plus 130 or something. Because after that loss to Wardley, he should definitely not be a minus 200 favorite. So I understand your point of view. That alone puts value on Stolze as the underdog, and so that plus 170, gives him value for sure. Just from a betting perspective. But I think Lazzez just has a skill set to just to beat him on the feet. Stolze isn't a grappler. He's not a wrestler. And so I don't think he has, any sort of advantage over Lazzez unless he's been working on that body kick or those body shots, because apparently that's Lazzez's kryptonite. And so I'll take him by decision.
And before we begin with the main card, I'd like to ask, as we always do, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I love reading the comments, even the ones that are like suspect. I'm like, okay, why would you type that? But no, man, like I really like checking my feed on the YouTube studio thing and seeing a new comment and responding. We're up to like 155 subscribers, which was awesome. I'm like, holy crap. I didn't mention that to you. We're up to 155 subscribers. Isn't that cool?
Oh yeah, considering I was thinking like, wow, what if we get to 20 subscribers? That's going to be a pretty cool day. And then we surpassed that in like 6 months. So I was like, all right, we got 20 subscribers in 6 months.
Yeah, I specifically told people like friends, I'm like, hey, do not, and I repeat, do not subscribe if you're not going to listen. Which
Uh-huh.
I'm very, what's the word? I'm very proud like that. I'm like, hey, I don't want your goddamn charity. So 155 people that subscribe, it makes you feel good a little bit. And I know we're not a huge channel, but that's still pretty damn awesome for us. So try to make it 200 by the end of the year. That's a pretty reasonable goal, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And it's not like we're creating fake accounts and subscribing to them ourselves. That takes too much damn time. I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, no, I barely put any time into the production of this thing.
Yeah.
But moving on to the main card, Brian Barberena, Bam Bam Barberena versus Jason the Vanilla Gorilla Witt. I didn't have any notes for this one because I didn't need to study anything. I'm not going to spend too much time. I've got Barberena to win this one by a second round knockout. I am a huge fan of Bam Bam. He's reminds me a lot of like physically the way he looks, his face, and the way he fights of Carlos Condit. And you know what a mark I am for Carlos Condit. Bam Bam, this guy is just the best way I try to describe the way he fights. And I think I'm quite accurate. I'm quite eloquent when I say Brian Bam Bam Barberena fights like a motherfucker. And that should tell you everything you need to know about this guy. This guy's a dog. He will always fight for your money. His fight with Vicente Luque, although he lost via TKO, you can argue it was a knockout TKO. He was beating Vicente Luque until that third round where he just, I don't know, man, like he just got caught. And performances like that, I'm like, win, lose, or draw, I'm always going to be a fan of Bam Bam. Him and his weird obsession with collecting lunchboxes. But then again, what the fuck am I saying? I'm collecting Spider-Man toys. But his last outing was a fight against Anthony Ivy, where he just schooled Anthony Ivy. I think he could have put him away a couple times, but he just demonstrated that this guy's really tough. Takedown defense was on point. He trains out of the MMA lab. The comeback on Jason Witt, man, Jason Witt, he's a guy that I see potential in, but I don't know what it is about this guy. He's one of these guys fighting out of Glory MMA and Fitness with James Krause. It just doesn't really translate sometimes because I thought his last fight with Matthew Semmelsberger, I was super concerned that because the fight takes place standing, he has a chance of getting cracked. His chin isn't great. His naked leg kicks really leave him open to getting hit. And that's what he did. He got hit straight by Matthew Semmelsberger, got knocked out. It's almost like he's in denial that his chin isn't great. And he's just always wanting to at least try to strike. Dude should be diving for legs immediately. I see Brian knocking him out. I think he's just a better fighter, the better chin, the better power puncher, better volume. The grappling might be a bit suspect because Jason Witt, he's a good grappler. He's a good wrestler. He can take you down and he can dominate you there. And we've seen that happen to Brian, but I think Brian's just on a different level compared to Jason Witt. I see him knocking him out second round. First round might be a little interesting because if, as I mentioned, Jason Witt should be just attacking for diving for legs immediately, which I think he would do against Brian. But if he doesn't, man, Brian's going to put his lights out in the first round. Maybe not with a single punch, but with an accumulation of punches, maybe a standing TKO. So I'll go with Brian to win second round by standing TKO.
I'll keep this one short. I think the experience factor here alone gives Brian that edge. I think the odds are a little too high on this one, or I should say, I'd prefer if the odds weren't as high. Minus 150, I think, would be better.
Well, that's where you pick the TKO prop.
Yeah, that'd be man. I think Brian is set to, put a stamp on Jason Witt. Unfortunately for Jason, but one thing to note is that, funny enough, Bam Bam actually beat both Ellenberger brothers
Oh, yeah, he did.
by
Oh man,
by beating their ass. He beat both their asses
Jake and
emphatically.
Joe.
Yeah, the Jake and Joe Ellenbergers beat the hell out of them. So yeah, it's been close to a year, that he fought last. But I think he's, probably got his body recovered a little. I mean, he is up there. He's 32 already, which in MMA years is up there. But then again, Jason Witt is 34. He's not exactly what I would call in his prime. But I think Bam Bam's going to put on a show. I think he's going to, probably, I'd say TKO in the second round. So yeah, I'd say a TKO prop would probably definitely come in handy. It'll come out even money or plus money at this point, until maybe some money starts to come in on Bam Bam.
Our next bout at bantamweight, we've got a bout between Yanan Mulan Wu and the inaugural 125 champion Nico Montano. Currently, the odds are minus 175 for Nico, the comeback on Mulan plus 145. I took notes after doing a bit of research on these two ladies. All I really have is literally all I have written down for Wu is bouncy, because every time she would bounce, you would obviously notice it, if you know what I'm saying. As for Montano, she's been away for a long time, 2 years. And yeah, her record is pretty shite. It's 4-3 compared to the 11-4 for Yanan. I really do not like this matchup. I know they have to include it because Nico's on contract, but I thought she should have been let go years ago. Her last fight was the loss against Juliana Pena, where I don't remember who I picked in that one initially. I think I might have gone with Pena, but someone might have swayed me into betting Montano. I'm like, yeah, this is a winnable fight for her. She shows decent this, and her grappling's that. Her grappling's okay. That's her path to victory, is to grapple Yanan. Why did I say that? To grapple Wu Yanan. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. That's a loss to Mizuki Inoue and a loss to Jocelyn Edwards, which, neither of these two girls are worth putting any money down at all. Being that Nico is minus 175, that's ridiculous. The rumors of her not wanting to fight Shevchenko, which, in the long run, I don't blame her. I don't want to fight Shevchenko either. So, it is what it is. But this one's just, it's one of these fights that if you were to say, hey, wake up, there's a UFC fight. I'm like, oh, who's on there? And if you were to say Nico Montano, go back to fucking bed. I really don't have a read on this one. Both of these girls are honestly lower level ladies. I'm going with the underdog in Yanan Wu. I'm going to say, because, her grappling has improved slightly. It's just that when she gets on top, she could be easily swept, and Montano's ground game isn't terrible. Smart money would say go with Nico, but I could never say that. I'm not ever picking Nico Montano. So I'll go with Yanan Wu. It's going to be a close one, man. If Montano looks like crap, she's been away for 2 years. Yanan has been fighting just recently, 6 months ago. I'm going with recency bias, despite the fact that she lost her last fight. She was actually in there active. And, she's the younger girl. She's the longer girl. She's 5'8" compared to 5'5". She has, oddly enough, a 1-inch reach advantage over Montano. But yeah, I think if she gets her stuff together, I think she could be a formidable fighter, Yanan Wu, especially if she's training out of the institute in China. I'm going to go with her to win this one by a close decision. I really honestly don't care about this fight. So what do you think about this one?
I'm really going to keep this short. I know I said that before, but this is women's MMA. I think they're both not, I don't think they belong on the main card, even of a UFC fight night. This should have been the opening fight of the prelims. I think Nico, they're probably going to let her go as soon as her contract is up. They're just trying to kind of speed things along, but she's taking forever to accept fights. She's way past what would have been her prime, I suppose. But yeah, I'll go with Yanan Wu. Uh, I would suggest staying as far away from this fight as you can. But I would say the better bet, instead of picking a side, would be the over, because this fight is definitely going the distance.
Our next fight at bantamweight, a much better fight. We've got Kwang Ho Kang versus Ronnie Yahya. Mr. Fucking Perfect is back. And I've been a fan of this guy for a while now. Like, he's a very fun guy to watch. He's a very good grappler. And his fight with Teruto Ishihara was super fun. He knocked him out and then he submitted him at the same time. It was great. As for Ronnie Yahya, man, this guy's been really at his age, really demonstrating that he's a pretty solid overall fighter and the grappler. He's the Damian Maya of his division. Uh, he's 36 years old and he's still going strong. His last win was against Ray Rodriguez, which was a arm triangle choke. I'm not going to put a whole ton of stock on that, but the odds currently are minus 140 for Kang, the comeback on Yahya plus 120. This is, I think this could potentially be fight of the night. And I know that sounds crazy, but with these two guys, these level of grapplers, I think it could be fun. I think, of course, Ronnie Yahya is the overall better grappler on the ground, but Kang is no scrub on the ground either. I think his top game is fun. His transitions are great to watch. Mr. Perfect, I love the nickname. He's a big Kurt Hennig fan. I used to love Kurt Hennig. This should be good, man. On the feet, I think Kang easily dispatches Ronnie Yahya. I don't think he will get a knockout or anything like that, but I think he just light him up on the feet. He's the better striker. He has to watch out because Ronnie Yahya, for his age, he's got that old man strength. He'll take you down. So there's possibilities for some great scrambles on the ground, which could lead to a fight of the night. But honestly, now that I think about it, if there's any knockout where two sloppy dudes just beat the shit out of each other, that's going to take fight of the night over like a very technical ground fight. So in my eyes, it has the ability to be a fight of the night. Ronnie Yahya does gas, and that concerns me because if he is gassing with Mr. Perfect in front of him as an opponent, there's a possibility he can get finished. I don't think Kang can submit Ronnie Yahya. This has the ability to be a split decision that can go either way based on the top control of either guy. If Ronnie Yahya gasses out in the third round and Kang puts a beating on him, like a 10-8 just from the top, because his ground game is solid, I can see him edging out that split decision win. I don't know. We'll see how this one goes. I am leaning towards Kang just with that overall youth, but it's a close one in my opinion because both of these guys are primarily grapplers. It could go either way. I can see Ronnie Yahya even submitting Kang, but in all honesty, I think Kang is just the better fighter right now, the more athletic guy. I think Yahya has the strength advantage and, of course, the grappling on the ground, but it's not like he's going to get blown out of the water, Kang, that is. But I'll go with Kang to win. I think he might potentially even land some significant strikes that will tire out Ronnie Yahya in the later round if we're a more fatigued Ronnie Yahya starts telegraphing his takedowns a little more obviously, and then Kang just capitalizes and edges out that decision.
Yeah, this is a very close fight, and mainly due, I would say, if Kang had, fought maybe a little bit more recent, I would I would say Kang should be, minus 250, 260 favorite or something, but he hasn't, and so I think the value here is on Yahya, not just because his last name is so fun to say over and over again. But I think just his overall, what is it? His being active, a lot more active than Kang, is going to work to his benefit. I think because he fought, what is it, 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago.
Honestly, I wouldn't even call it a fight. It was just an exhibition where Ray Rodriguez showed in there, got submitted for a paycheck. That was like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, had he not fought then, he fought prior to that, a year before that, and then a year before that. So he, Honey Yahya, he fights like once a year, or he was fighting kind of sort of once a year. It's not really that big of advantage, of an advantage to give him. Um, yeah, this is a tough one. This is a really, really close fight. But you know what? I'm actually going to go with Kang by perfect plex. I think he's going to just get him, like hit him with a knee in the second round, and then hit him with that perfect plex, and then boom, you know, Bobby the Brain Heenan is going to come out, raise his hand, and they're going to slam a chair on the back of Ronnie's head. But I don't know if that's going to happen in that order, but I'll go with Kang by decision. I think he's got enough, and this is all just at this point. I think it's guesswork because we have to see what kind of shape Kang comes in. He's probably going to have a little bit of rust, so I think he's actually going to get his rhythm maybe isn't going to get set until maybe the second round. I think the first round is going to be a little bit slow for him, and I think Ronnie's going to take advantage of that. But I think by the second round, hopefully Kang, gets back into his rhythm and uses his. I think he should be the better fighter, but yeah, he's going to really have to kick it up a notch. He's going to have to fight that whole ring rust theory thing. So, but yeah, I'll stick with Kang by decision.
Our next bout at strawweight, we've got a fight between Gloria de Paula and Cheyenne Buys. Or is it Bays? Yeah, yeah. So both of these ladies are coming off of a loss. Gloria lost to Jinyu Frey, as we mentioned earlier, and thus making her the underdog. She is a plus 155 underdog. Comeback on Buys or Bays. I always, whatever. Minus 190. Terrible, 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 terrible. I don't understand why Cheyenne Bays is a minus 190 after probably should not use this fucking thing. It was an abortion of a fight, man. It was terrible. It was god awful. I hated it so much that I made an enemy out of Ruiz for the rest of my life. I'm like, she doesn't know she's my number one enemy, but she is, and I'm glad she got knocked out. That was a horrible fight, god awful, and it's insulting to me for Cheyenne to be a minus 190 after that horrible, horrible performance. I will say this, though, last performance aside, I think Cheyenne Bays is probably the perfect woman, just because when she was giving interviews, when her and her husband were fighting on the same card, when she lost, she was talking about like, oh, I feel bad because when I'm training, I don't fulfill my womanly duties to my husband, like cooking and cleaning, and I feel so bad. I'm just like, you're perfect. For Gloria de Paula, she let a lot of people down because Jinyu Frey, she's the older woman. People thought, yeah, this girl's going to come in here and run through the older Jinyu Frey, who was at 36, if I remember correctly. And she got grapple fucked. She looked good in the second round. Her right hand is pretty nice, I will say. I think she might be the better fighter between both of these girls. So there's some value in the underdog in this case, because I'll tell you this about Cheyenne Buys. She's very aggressive, but I noticed a lot of things that I did not like is that she has really poor fight IQ. She kept getting taken down with that same technique, the head and arm throw, and then she just got headlocked the entire time and she could not get out of it. And I'm thinking to myself, your husband is, I believe, a solid wrestler and a good jujitsu practitioner, but are you even training together? Because what the fuck was that? It really pissed me off because I thought she was just the better fighter that night, and I might just be harboring some, I'm still pissed off, I guess. But in all reality, feelings aside, I did not like what I saw in that fight. She kept crashing into Montserrat Ruiz. Like, she would attack and she would move forward. She would be more aggressive, but she did not strike well. Like, she would just crash into Ruiz, and Ruiz was able to easily take her down and clinch up with her. Her footwork is not very good. And yeah, man, like, I do like that she's a striker, but if she continues to crash into the girls that have decent, takedowns, she's not going to do well. And my thought is maybe after that horrible, horrible, shitty performance, she went into the gym and then started drilling really more actively and just got her jiu-jitsu leveled up. But man, if Gloria DePaula starts landing those really nice, stiff right hands, I think she can edge us out because I know Gloria. She also trains with a UFC fighter in is it Mara Bueno Silva? They're there's that. They both have a spouse or loved one in the UFC. I'll go with Gloria DePaula just because of that. I did not like what I saw from Cheyenne Buys. I rather take the girl who got grapple fucked but looked good opposed to the girl who got grapple fucked but put herself in that grapple fucky position. So I'll go with DePaula to win this one by a decision.
Yeah, I'll keep it short one more time. This is women's MMA. Betting wise, I would suggest stay away from it. If you do have to bet, don't bet the side, bet the over because this is going to distance. I have no idea how this fight got this high on this card. Given this isn't, a McGregor pay-per-view, but Jesus, I mean, if you're gonna put these, I don't know. I guess the UFC just doesn't want people watching their main card. I don't know why the hell they would put this so high up. I guess they want people to tune out at a certain point. Anyway, but yeah, I guess Gloria DePaula is a little bit less horrible than Cheyenne Buys because she did lose to Jinyu Frey, which is a lot better than losing to. I had a problem with this last week, and it was because John Anik, I kept hearing him say, or I kept hearing him pronounce it as Monster Rat Ruiz.
Oh shit, that's perfect.
I was like, what the hell is this guy? I was like, yeah, I kept hearing, yeah, Monster Rat Ruiz. I was like, what the hell is wrong with John Anik? Usually he's a little bit better than that.
Oh no, he's spot on.
But I was like, well, after watching that horrible fight, I was like, well, yeah, I guess he was spot on. And after this, I think after this second loss, Cheyenne is going to get downgraded to the Pillow Princess Buys. She's no longer going to be the Warrior Princess.
So what did you say? The Pill Princess?
No, the Pillow Princess.
Oh, well, I don't get it. What is that?
Cheyenne Buys is, her nickname is the Warrior Princess, which is, referencing Xena, the Warrior Princess, right? But unless I misunderstood what it means to begin with, but a Pillow Princess is a girl who bites the pillow. You know what I mean? Who's in a certain position, and bites the pillow. I think. I mean, if I'm incorrect, somebody comment in the comment section as to what it means. I don't really care one way or the other, but yeah, this is a bad fight. Do not. I guess if you have some sort of long shot parlay or something, and you want to bet on the underdog or bet on the over, if you want to just, if you're like, I don't care if I, lose this dollar, long shot bet, then by all means. But anything you don't want to lose, or you're fearful of, like, oh man, I really don't want to lose this, then yeah, stay away from this fight. This is a garbage fight.
Our next bout at middleweight, we've got the return of Smiling Sam Alvey and also the return of Roman Kopylov. Kopylov, we haven't seen him since he got choked out by Carl Roberson about almost 2 years ago. Currently, the odds have this one at minus 275 for Kopylov. The comeback on Alvey is plus 220. And man, deep down, I really want to pick Sam Alvey. Like, I really want to pick Sam Alvey to win. Like, I like Sam Alvey. He's been doing this for a long time. How many gingers do you know that can knock someone out like that? Not many. He's got a really vicious left hand. If you sleep on him, he can put you to sleep, for fuck's sake. His last fight was a bout with him and Julian Marquez. I was firmly on Marquez's side, but I was worried so much that Sam Alvey could knock out Marquez that I did not bet him that day. And I should have, because he choked him out so fucking bad, man. Marquez on a different story. This dude's a damn savage for real. But man, I really am a fan of Smiling Sam Alvey, so much so that I'm really wanting to pick him. But man, after watching tape on Kopylov, I have to say that his debut against Carl Roberson really did not demonstrate how good, not necessarily that he is, but the potential that he has. He just did not look the same as I've seen him in his regional fights because he looked very tentative. He was losing that entire fight. And one thing that I did like about Kopylov is in the third round, after getting a point taken away, he went after Carl Roberson, and that's when you saw, wow, this guy is very skilled with the kicks, with the punches. He's very aggressive, but it just took him a long time to really engage like that. So my thought is, we know how Sam Alvey loses fights. You go on the outside, you kick him, you take him down, you just control him. You don't play his game. He is the white Tyron Woodley, but way more likable. He goes, puts his back against the cage, and he tries to land that left hand. And man, he's always live for a knockout, which is why I'm like thinking to myself, like, I can see him knocking out Roman Kopylov, but realistically, I've seen Kopylov on Instagram. He's looking great. He's looking shredded. And we know Sam Alvey is a very pasty white boy. He's not really the most physically imposing guy, but you know he can always put your lights out. He went to a draw with Daun Jung. A lot of people didn't see that coming, but man, I maybe because I'm always like worried about the threat of that left hand that I picked Sam Alvey, but luckily he went to a decision to a draw. Yeah, I went to a draw with Daun Jung, so made me look pretty good. I am firmly on Roman Kopylov, though. Problem is almost 2 years away. If he's gonna continue acting the way he did in the fight with Roberson, he doesn't throw. This could be a hairy fight. Sam Alvey, he is desperate for a win. He's on a what, 5 fight losing streak. I'm including the draw because of course that doesn't count. I'll count that as a loss as well. Yeah, he definitely needs a win. And I always think, is this the fight where he's going to come out aggressive? We'll see, but I've got Kopylov to win this one by decision. He's a much younger guy, more physical guy. Kicks, when's the last time you saw Sam Alvey throw a kick? But yeah, I would not be surprised if he gets that knockout. Sam Alvey does, that is, but I've got Kopylov by decision.
This is a very another close coin flip fight. It's hard to say. It's hard to really say Kopylov has any sort of advantages. I mean, this guy's been he doesn't really have all that much experience, and the experience that he has is mainly outside the UFC. While he didn't have a great showing against Carl Roberson, he did show that he's not quite, at that top 20, 20 some odd level yet, possibly. He does have the youth, he does have youth on his side. So, he's hopefully going to have better conditioning. He's going to be faster and whatnot, Sam Alvey. But, I don't know, man. Well, one thing I'm very confused about is that how is Sam Alvey still in the UFC? I don't get it. Because guys have been cut for, having shorter losing streaks, and Sam Alvey has lost a lot. He's been with the UFC for like, what, a decade now or something? Nice guy and all, but yeah, Sam Alvey does not belong in the UFC. This is, the case of the old guy who shouldn't be in the UFC versus the young guy who's kind of the unknown. So it's a coin flip fight for me. I would stay away from this fight as well. I don't feel confident in either guy winning. One of these guys has to win unless it's a draw as well, which would be kind of lame. Yeah, I don't know. I can't realistically take a side. I'll just say this fight's probably going to go over. If Roman can come in and just, have some not some volume, but have consistent volume, put pressure on Alvey, not let Alvey, take the center of the octagon and pressure him, then it should be a fairly easy night for him. But if he just kind of is very, if he fights not to lose versus fighting to win against Sam Alvey, Sam Alvey's going to take this fight. So it's hard to say, in that sense, because there's really not a lot to go on with Roman other than the Carl Roberson defeat. And we know what Sam Alvey's all about. He's just about, because Sam Alvey is the Roxanne Modafferi of the male, of the men's fight game. You know what I mean? because he pulls out these these wins out of his ass like Houdini. So you know what? I'm gonna take Sam Alvey. I think Sam's probably gonna be the underdog here. If he is an underdog money, then but this is the equivalent to me of a women's MMA match. Stay away from it. This is not worth betting on. It's too close.
Yeah, Sam Alvey is plus 220.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe add it to that long shot parlay, but I wouldn't bother with it.
The next bout, our co-main event at heavyweight, we've got a bout between Chris Daukus and Shamil Abdurakhimov. The odds for this one is minus 200 for Chris Daukus. Comeback on Shamil is plus 160. This one was supposed to take place on the Dillashaw card, but it got moved to the Hall Strickland card. I believe COVID protocols, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And I think we both predicted right, round number one knockout. That's not going to change for me. The one thing I will say that changed my mind is that I thought, oh man, Shamil might potentially delay his ass whooping. But no, I think Chris Daukus is just going to be the faster guy. I think it might be a flawless performance. I really don't think Shamil is going to be able to get anything going. As I mentioned in the last podcast, he does have a vicious right hand that Chris Daukus has to look out for. But man, Chris Daukus he's on a different level right now. He's number 10 in the world, and he's going to put out Shamil with a vicious combination. And we will see Shamil out of the UFC. He's nearly 40 years old, and we have another name on Chris Daukus' record. This would be the second Russian in a row that he would knock out. So nothing's changed for me. Chris Daukus, round number one knockout.
Yeah, I think Shamil's only path to victory at this point is to get Chris Daukus up against the cage and then rub against him, viciously. To get that static charge to hopefully knock him out with that, because man, this guy's hairy. Hopefully they make him shave before his fight. I mean, if he gets that chest rug on Chris Daukus, that could severely damage him. That wouldn't be bad. At that point, he'd be Shamil, static shock, Abdurakhimov. That wouldn't be good. But yeah, I think Chris, it'll stay the same. Chris Daukus by KO. That'll sweeten the deal. Put your money on Chris.
Our main event at middleweight, we've got primetime Uriah Hall versus Tarzan Sean Strickland. And the odds on this one are minus 220 for Strickland. The comeback on Hall is plus 175. And this was a pretty solid fight. I wouldn't necessarily consider this like a main event. This would be a co-main event in my opinion, but what are you going to do, right? But Sean Strickland, ever since he came back and he moved up to middleweight, he has been looking really solid. Man, he comes in, he beats Jack Marshman. Whoop-de-doo, really, right? We know Jack Marshman does not belong in the UFC, and he handled him accordingly. He looked like a stud out there, just talking shit to him and just beating his ass like, hey, I'm giving you a shot to beat me. And Jack Marshman could not figure out the puzzle. That was Sean Strickland. His next bout after that was a knockout of Brendan Allen, which was, after rewatching it, in my mind, I always remember just a knockout, and then I compile like images of what I think happened. Not exactly how it went in my mind, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh wow, Brendan Allen is landing shots on Sean Strickland, and then eventually those 1-2s that Strickland was landing on Brendan Allen's face caught up to him, and he just beat his ass against the cage. But he had some success, Brendan Allen, that is, against Sean Strickland. And then the fight with Jodko, it was interesting because it was a lot closer in my mind. It was a lot closer in reality than it was in my mind, I should say. Jotko thoroughly got beat, but Strickland did not look like the powerhouse guy that I thought he would have looked against Jotko. As for Uriah Hall, he's on a pretty solid win streak. Both of these guys are on 4-fight win streaks, but Hall's is a bit more name heavy. The fight with Bevon Lewis, to explain that one, he's losing the entire fight and he miraculously knocks him out. which is crazy because I will give it to Uriah Hall. He destroyed Bevon Lewis so bad that Bevon Lewis could never get another win. And he went to a split decision with Shoeface, which was concerning, man. That was interesting. I picked against him against Anderson Silva because I thought, man, Anderson Silva has a chance here as long as he doesn't get caught. He got caught. And yeah, Uriah Hall, as we all know, he has an issue where he just does not pull the trigger. And I'm really excluding that Chris Weidman fight. It's a win, but not much to go off of there. I guess I could say his low kick game, defending the low kicks, are pretty solid. Sean Strickland does not throw many low kicks, though. And this fight is a close one for me, in my opinion, because Uriah Hall is a question mark all the time. Because if you cut out the portion of his brain that involves anxieties and overthinking, and just you let him perform, dude is amazing. He's an excellent striker. He spins. He's got the incredible power, and he needs to really believe in himself. And I'm not 100% sure he's at that headspace anytime. We know he's also kind of a nice guy. He doesn't shit talk. He doesn't like that. And he might have been more shook up from that Chris Weidman leg snap than Chris Weidman, which is crazy to believe. Like maybe he's feeling a certain way about that, where he doesn't want to hurt his opponent again. But yeah, if this guy puts it on you, he will hurt you. As for Sean Strickland, him being a minus 220 concerns me because I don't think he does have aggression, but I don't think he has the type of aggression and pace to really put Uriah Hall in uncomfortable positions. I am worried because this is a 5-round fight. 3-round fight, Sean Strickland blows him out of the water easily by a decision because Uriah Hall is a very slow starter. And Tarzan, he has a very nice 1-2. He will shit talk, which could get in the head of Uriah Hall. He's very aggressive, but he's also very hittable. And he throws mostly 1-2s, which is concerning, man. You can time those. You can throw an overhand and possibly catch Sean Strickland. And again, he's very hittable. So if Uriah Hall just stops being, a whiny little bitch and overthinking things, he can destroy Sean Strickland, because his last loss, Sean Strickland, was against Zaleski, and that was a spinning head kick that landed on him, dropped him. He did not expect that, and he got finished off with punches. And looky here, Uriah Hall's a spinny guy. He will spin, and we saw him knock out Adam Sella with that nasty spinning heel kick. If he throws that in, say, the 4th or 5th round, so here's how I see the fight going. Sean Strickland might win round number 1, round number 2, round number 3 gets a little close because Uriah Hall starts actually throwing punches. And round number 4 comes around. Sean Strickland gets very complacent with his 1-2s and his moving forward and pressure, possibly even taking down Uriah Hall and just beating him up there. So he's like, oh, I've got this in the bag. Easy peasy. I'm not even breathing hard. Uriah Hall throws a spinning back kick and knocks out Sean Strickland. Super worried about that because I've seen it in both of his fights, his recent fights, Brendan Allen and Krzysztof Jotko. He gets very, very complacent in there, and that will be his downfall. Really tough one for me to pick. I am leaning Strickland, though. I think he can edge out this fight by decision. He just has to not allow Uriah Hall to really catch him off guard. He has to be on his best behavior the entire fight. One thing I should add, he recently went off on Twitter talking all this shit about fight fans and this and that. So that's also very concerning. Like, is he in the right headspace to make this fight happen, to make it a easy decision? We'll see. I'll go with Strickland to win this one. I'm going to say a decision. I don't think he has that kind of power or the type of combinations to really knock out Uriah Hall, but I think he has the ability to make it a close enough decision. He might lose maybe the last few rounds, 4th and 5th, but I think he'll win the first 3. So I'll go with Sean Strickland to win by a decision.
I'm actually taking Hall in this one. I think Hall's going to get at least three rounds, maybe the last 3 rounds, because he is a slow starter. And I think Hall is more well-rounded at this point than Strickland. I mean, Strickland could be, I think in another 2-3 years, he'll definitely be better. But I think at this point in both of their careers, I think Hall is the sharper of the two. I think he's, I think he's going to be. I think his shots are going to be, he's going to be like a sniper. Starting maybe in this late second, early third round. He's going to pick his shots, and I think Sean Strickland is going to kind of be in there like a deer with the headlights at that point. He's not going to know, if he should mix it up, takedowns or submissions or stuff like that. He's just going to, at that point, it's going to turn into a sparring match, and I think Uriah Hall is just going to take it to him. So I think funny enough, I think the value here is in the underdog. So, but I think, this isn't a big money fight. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of money to come in on Hall. But while he is an underdog, if you do find value in him, which I do, I would say, put him in your parlays or at least in your long shot parlays at the very least. But I think Hall definitely is going to take it to Strickland. He might get a TKO late, maybe in the late fourth, fifth round or so if he tires out Strickland. But I think Strickland's cardio should, with his cardio, he should keep pace with them. But yeah, I think Hall's the call, at least for me in this one.
Hall's the call. I think you've got some solid points. I'm not going to argue with that at all. I think you have a very good point when it comes to this one, because Hall, there's value on Hall, especially with like a TKO prop. I think he can hurt Sean Strickland. He is the better striker. It's just that time and time again, I've seen this fucking guy not engage, and it concerns the hell out of me, man. Like, he did the same thing with Anderson Silva, man. He was losing, I think every round, first, second. He was losing the third until he actually dropped Silva, and then the fourth he finished him. But had he not landed that nice punch in the last minute of the third round, man, had that been a 3-round fight, Silva would have won it. And that's my biggest thing, is like, you can never really trust Hall. But I think you're right. There's a lot of value in him to win, especially if you pick like a TKO prop, or for it to go in the later rounds, for him to win either round number 4 or 5. Because Strickland, he's hittable, as I mentioned. I'm concerned about that, but I'm thinking he might actually start diving for the legs and going for takedowns. But interesting.
Yeah, I'd say if Hall doesn't, if he's really tentative, we're gonna have to change his nickname to, Uriah does not engage Hall as well. Yeah, funny. Strickland reminds me a little bit of Michael Bisping, prior to his eye getting popped out.
He kind of fights like him a little bit too, which is funny. But he's starting to talk shit in there too, which is like, okay. I don't know, something about Sean Strickland being this like shit talking badass just does not compute with me.
Yeah.
But those have been our picks for UFC Fight Night, Hall versus Strickland. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. That's been Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and we'll catch you at the next fight.